Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Data Dispatch. I hope you guys are having a great day. Stay tuned for the whole video because we have a lot to talk about with what's happening within this crazy market right now as we speak. The reason I say that is because we have NVIDIA that comes with record, smashing earnings. We see them break over $1,000, sitting these crazy all-time highs. Yet we have the Dow Jones that is basically setting one of its worst days that we've seen in 2024. And why this is interesting is because the probability of the interest rate cuts that is being priced in for September is starting to dwindle with some recent data that we do need to talk about. And on top of that, of course, Palantir, we've been looking at this AI stock on a daily basis, basically. With PLTR, it's sitting at a critical support level right now. And we're going to be talking about why this could be a key opportunity if this AI industry is still proving to be very demanding. And that's what we're seeing in NVIDIA. So before we get too far, hit that like button, subscribe for daily videos. Thank you guys so much for supporting a smaller content creator. And of course, I'm just collecting the data and dispatching it to you. Do your own research out there. Of course, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm a guy on YouTube yelling at you. Now let's talk about what we got. Pull it up on the screen here. Quickly, we'll talk about PLTR. Sitting here at 2072. Now, this is an interesting support level because it's also a critical support level for PLTR because last year, this $20 was a really strong resistance point for PLTR. And we've seen since 2024 kind of this establishment above the mid-20s. And before last quarter earnings, we saw this kind of pop-up momentum coming up here to about the 25s. And with, of course, that small change in guidance, we see the sell-off of PLTR, which I think was kind of over-dramatized a little bit. But nonetheless, sitting right now at 2072 at this kind of $20 level support. Now, we've seen the reversal triggered around this $20 area a few times. So we're going to be relying on the support if we continue to see a dwindle across that's happening in the market. What specifically is happening right here with the Dow Jones, regardless of NVIDIA, we'll talk about that in a second, is failing to lift the broader market. And what we do have and what's specifically happening is that the majority of the stocks right here, more than 400 of the stocks with the S&P 500 actually traded at a lower price today. And that is because traders are currently pricing in the current expectations of the first interest rate cuts that were hopefully going to be happening in September. That was at 70% at that hope. And now they're currently pricing in just a 51% chance. And typically when the probability falls below 60%, what we've seen historically, it is viewed as no longer that the Fed is likely going to take action in terms of actually cutting rates come September. Now the reason why investors are starting to see this, we're seeing a pullback in the general market, is because what we saw that we see services and manufacturing data for May topped economics expectations according to purchase managers. And also in addition, the initial jobless claims right here, this came in at 215,000 versus the expectation for economics calling it at 220,000 right here. This is adding to concerns, of course, that the Federal Reserve will no longer be lowering those interest rates soon. So that's kind of what we're seeing in terms of the general market right here with these big indexes coming down, Dow Jones, S&P 500, NASDAQ. But regardless, you can see NVIDIA right here in the bottom left. In the big green, what is happening is NVIDIA stock pops 9% after it hits all-time highs of 1,000 after beating forecasts, announcing a stock split, and also increasing its dividends. So really great headliner to see right there, especially as we see NVIDIA coming in here at $6.12 per share, really outpacing what the market was expecting on revenue of $26 billion, a jump of 461% and 262% respectively right here. The $6.12 earnings per share and the $26 billion for revenue respectively from a year ago, announcing here a 10-to-1 stock split and also increasing their dividend payments, trying to be more competitive with the big tech peers. So NVIDIA doing very well. And where does that leave us for PLTR? And this is an interesting article here that I want to talk about, saying, but don't worry, keep calm, even as Palantir's stock does wobble. And talking about what we sit right here, and what I really like is how this article is starting off, and I couldn't agree anymore. Basically saying, don't let the short-term volatility, what we're seeing, that small change in the future guidance for PLTR, really shake anybody out of a good long-term investment. And basically the principle is still there. Palantir is still operating as per usual, and what we likely saw was an overreaction of the decrease that we saw in that revenue segment increase from that 70% down to 40%. And I think it was kind of unrealistic for Wall Street to really expect Palantir to be able to keep up with the 70% pace. I would agree with that. That's very unrealistic, and I would say unreasonable. So what we're seeing here, the market is spoiled and sometimes unreasonable. We're expecting these hopiums, and the analysts are expecting kind of these highs to get hit over and over and over and keep up and always do better and better and better. I think it's more important that Palantir is being realistic in this sense. And the fact that they just changed their guidance right here to 200 to 2.6 to 2.689 billion right here versus the expectations right here, that is a pretty objective guidance. And I think it's great to see that they're being truthful, looking at the facts. And with what they've had is that Palantir stock is basically had one of its best quarters that we've seen nonetheless. However, we're letting some of these kind of over-dramatized headlines taking the world by storm. And that's kind of why we're seeing a little bit of a decrease right now here in Palantir. And we also could be seeing here NVIDIA, and this was something that I was not expecting. I thought with the NVIDIA smashing earnings, showing demand here, I kind of thought, and I was wrong in this sense, that Palantir was going to kind of follow that. But we could maybe be having investors that are moving more into NVIDIA, trying to get in on that short-term play, playing off of that earnings volatility. That could definitely be happening too. But what Wall Street is specifically looking at for PLTR, in terms of actual fair price targets, what we're seeing on terms of the high end for analysts and on the low end, I think it's expected from a transparency perspective that you guys know what all the analysts are really talking about and how the weaker than expected guidance right here, like I said, you can see it across all the articles brought up again. It is one of the big headliners right here that I think is really bringing Palantir down. But right now, looking at these ratings, most of the analysts are rating PLTR at a hold with highest price targets of 35. We've talked about the different analysts have talked about that. And of course, the lowest price target of 9. We've talked about them, RBC, I believe. Now, average price targets of 21.89, which is basically kind of where Palantir is sitting at right now. So specifically talking about and Palantir historically, I think $20 is at a decent point, in my opinion. That's a critical support level for PLTR. And even if we see a dip below that $20, that support is not held, and we start to see, hey, where's the next support level going to be tested? This could possibly be good opportunities for people that are looking for the long term. Because like I said, nothing has changed for PLTR. They have an amazing balance sheet. They're continuing to kill it with AIP. Still, bringing more customers to the table. We're seeing their revenue increase year over year. We're also seeing that commercial customer count, commercial revenue having, very, very good statistics. And on top of that, keeping in line with their governmental contracts too. So Palantir is still doing very well and just don't like that short-term volatility bring too much emotion to the table. And one thing that I did want to talk about here, Yahoo Finance and Motley Fool, we kind of pinpointed out right here, is it's important to remember that PLTR has really only IPO'd from about 3 years ago. And in June, or not maybe not June, but in 2021, it hit an all-time high of $39. And where we see, and specifically right there, right here, January, sorry, that said like that, hit an all-time high of $39, 438% above its list price of $725. We're sitting at $20 right now, ladies and gentlemen, nearly 50% of its all-time high. This is in 2021, shortly after its IPO on September 30th, and compare Palantir in terms of its actual business foundation, structure, and organization, what's happening, compare that to January of 27th of 2021. Major changes between that. And you can see right here that the price was nearly double at where it's at right now. So this could really show you that entirely Palantir could easily get back to its highest point. I mean, considering that it was able to do that without all the information that we know about PLTR right now, without all the people talking about PLTR that we have right now. So it's very interesting to see how just volatility, momentum, market sentiment, and emotion and psychology can play on these share prices, especially for more speculative share prices, such as and securities like Palantir stock. So that's all about I have for you guys in this video. What do you think is going to be happening here in the market for tomorrow and especially for next week? Do you think we're going to start to see a little bit of a cool down? Do you think Palantir is going to be testing that $20 level of support? And do you think it's going to be able to hold that support? Number one, it's my number one question. And do you think the market is still going to continue to decrease here? And what's your opinion on interest rate cuts for September? Do you think they're going to happen, or do you think they're going to stay steady? Let me know down in the comments. Have a great night, and I'll catch you guys later.